Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to do continue with rerouting, and we have the same diagram here. We're still running rip between R1, R2, and R5 again. And this time around, what we want is we already know that these three routers are sharing rip routes, so they all see each other. But now we want to make sure that between R1 and R2 that the routes, those routers must authenticate before they can actually see the routes. Okay, so if I go into R2, I'm going to R2 to show IP route. You see, R2 sees all the routes coming from R1. Okay, loopback interface routes, and also you can see the routes coming from R5. So it's 205.45. Okay, so those routes are seen, but we're not concerned with this route coming from R5 for now. We just want these routes to appear only when R2 is able to authenticate with R1. Okay, we're going to make that kind of security. Okay, so that so to do that, let's get into R1 right now. Before doing it, I think I should enable debug. If I say on R2, I say first I'm going to clear IP route. Okay, now I'm going to debug IP rip. Okay, so debugging is on the R2. Very soon we're going to start seeing some authentication messages failing on R2 as long as we haven't applied any configuration on R2. So we're going to go into R1 and then we're going to just lower this down. There shouldn't be a distraction. So I'm going to go into R1. So I'm going to say configure terminal. Say key chain. I'm going to give a key chain name. I'm going to call it chain 1. Okay. Enter. And I'm going to give a key. Chain 1 is locally significant. Okay. So now I'm going to get key number. Key. I'm going to give key 1. Okay. And I'm going to provide the key string. Key string also has to match on both sides. The key number and the key string has to match on both sides. Key string, let's call it Cisco. Okay. Then we exit out of there and apply. So to apply, we go to interface. So to apply, we're going to apply on this interface that links both routers. Okay, in the same way, when we come here, we're going to apply on the interface linking back to R1. Okay, so we're going to say interface 0, okay, the IP authentication. Okay, authentication mode. Let's see what are the options we have. We have either clear text or MD5. We're going to make it a little bit more secure with MD5. That's the only option that we have that's a little bit more secure. So MD5. And then we're going to say IP rip authentication keychain. So we're going to provide a keychain that we just created previously, which is locally significant, chain 1. Okay, and that's it. So I'm going to come here, save, and if we go now to R2, we're going to see some error messages like unable to authenticate, and also it's going to be able to see. If I come here, it's just let me say on debug all. On debug all, because otherwise we won't be able to read anything. So we scroll up, we're going to see, okay, we're going to see some messages saying it's unable to authenticate. Okay. You see right here, authentication, invalid authentication. Okay. Invalid authentication. So which now means in order for this R2 to see messages, to see routes from R1, it has to authenticate. So right now we see invalid authentication, which means if we do show IP, show IP route, and we filter the routes coming from loopback interface of router 1, which is 172.16. Okay, those routes are there. Let me just clear. Okay, so the routes are cleared on R1. Let's check again. I know it takes some time. The routes will disappear. Clear AP route. All right, now we cannot see any routes. Hopefully, let me check again. Okay, so right now we cannot see any routes. Okay, so it just took a little bit of time for those routes to disappear. So each time you make sure you clear those rip routes, otherwise you're going to see the routes, but you're going to think those routes are still being propagated, but in reality, they have been stopped. So now for me to see the routes coming from R2, from R1, I have to do the same configuration R2, okay? So I'm going to go into R2, okay? I'm going to go into R2, we go terminal, exact same configuration except some few changes. Key chain. So I'm going to give a keychain, okay, but this one I said is, as I said, it was locally significant, so I can give chain 2, okay. The key number should be the same, like in R1, so key 1, I gave R1, the key 1 R1. I shall have to give a key string. Key string has to also match, okay. I'll take it out of there and apply. Interface is 0/0, IP authentication mode MD5. We have to give the same mode like on the other side. Read authentication key chain. Okay, now I have to give chain 2 locally significant. Okay, and that's it. If I save and I clear IP route. Okay, clear IP route is also here. All right, now we should be able to start seeing rip routes again on R2 from R1. Okay, so if I do show IP route 172.16. Okay, so we can see now those rip routes started appearing again. Okay, because we can authenticate. Okay, and if I do debug, if I do a debug on R2, debug IP rip, you can see there's authentication going on. You're going to see, let's see, authentication messages. Because previously we saw authentication failing. So now we can see authentication successful. Let's do debug. and debug all. Okay, now let's scroll up and see what exactly is talking about the authentication. You should see messages like authentication successful, RIP receive packet with MD5 authentication. So it basically says that those authentication was successful because it received those routes. Okay, so that's how you know that your authentication is working. And any router that doesn't have this configuration to authenticate would not be able to receive those routes. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, and so we configured authentication between R1 and R2. How about R5? Okay, let's go to R5 and see exactly what we get there. So let's go into R5. Lower this one out and see what we're getting from R5. Let's say clear IP route. Okay, so if I show IP route, I'm checking first the loopback interface routes coming from R2. So it's going to be 172.17. Okay, see those routes are not there. So I'm checking the ones coming from R1, also not there. Why? Because we have to enable authentication on R5 for R5 to be able to receive routes coming from R1 and R2. So in that way, we kind of create some kind of security. Okay, let's say these were three companies were separate and they come into agreement, and one of the agreement has to be that maybe they want those routes to be authenticated before they can actually, we can have routing happening between those two or three companies. So that's it for authentication. And in the next video, we're going to check sub interfaces, how they work, and also unicast routing. So for sub interfaces, sorry, for passive interfaces, okay. So this R1, R5 here is beyond R5. There's no other routers. Okay, maybe we could have workstations, we could have PCs and switches and everything. So we're going to see how we can apply passive interface configuration on R5 so that R5 does not receive multicast, RIP multicast broadcast going to all interface of R5, okay, except this one. So that's going to be the video we're going to do next. Okay, going to be how we configure a passive interface on R5. And for now, that's it for this video. And thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.